Ladies and gentlemen, RosterWatch Nation, welcome back to the epic RosterWatch Podcast, brought to you by RosterWatch.com. My name is Alex Dunlap, here today with Byron Lambert, and it is draft week. It's an important time to remind you, if you're listening to this podcast and Apple Podcasts, please rate and review there. If you're watching on YouTube, if you can give us a comment, a like, a subscribe, that would be greatly appreciated. We've been told recently, Byron, that the comments go a long way in the YouTube algorithm. So if you leave us a comment, we will respond to you, not because we particularly care to respond, but because we've heard that that's good for the algorithm, and we're complete whores to it. Byron, we're going over your top 10 wide receivers today. I've done my top 10 wide receivers. We now have rookie profiles up at rosterwatch.com for our top 27 wide receivers, around our top 20 running backs. I'm super proud of the content that we've put out this year at the running back and the wide receiver position. My top 10 rankings are done. Those will go up in the cumulative ranks that we put up at Roster Watch either Wednesday or Thursday before the actual NFL draft. But here on the podcast, we're going to go through your top 10, who just missed it. And Jesus Christ, man, how pumped are you for a big week of NFL draft action?
Hey, Alex, how's it going, brother? Very fired up to find out where all these rookies land in the next couple of days, so we can start getting a beat on all of our fantasy fortunes for Dynasty and for redraft as we start building all the draft tools, looking ahead towards August for what's going to be a really big fantasy football season this year, Alex. I think people are hungry as ever for fantasy.
Hey, let me ask you this. I'm getting my mock draft together for the Huddle Report. I need to get that in tomorrow by midnight. And I'm looking at some of the props online just before we get started. Just as long as we're talking wide receivers, I'm trying to put together sort of the flow of the first round. Do you go over or under 5.5 wideouts in round one Thursday? As you look over your list, can you see 6 of those guys going in round one with the different teams that have needs? If
you go under, it's going to be by a hair. I probably don't have first round grades on more than 5 guys, but if you go under, it's going to be probably like right at 5. So I say maybe the safer bet was to take the over. That's obviously going to be. It sounds like Vegas is pretty dialed in on that one.
Yeah, 5.5. So this is a monster class at the wide receiver position. Like I said, I went 27 deep in my rankings this year, which is more than I've ever done. And in doing so, I'm having struggles like separating like number 15 from number 16 because they're 2 players that I kind of like, So getting it down to this top 10 was really super hard. I'll be excited to hear how you've got it, man. So as long as we're here, let's just get to it. Why not tell us your first few that just barely missed the top 10, and we'll
you make an interesting point, Alex, because I evaluate this rookie wide receiver class. It looks like it's 2014 all over again. I should have pulled up the names that I tweeted out about a week ago from that class. But it was what an insane.
You just know
class that 2014
Mike Evans, Odell Beckham, Sammy Watkins,
Brandon Cooks, Allen Robinson, Devontae Adams.
These guys that were even a little bit farther down that you don't really remember, along with the guy. Kelvin Benjamin was a bust, but those are the guys that you sort of remember high up towards the top. And
Jordan Matthews. It was an extraordinary long list that went deep into the middle rounds, and obviously the acclaim with this rookie wide receiver class has gone to the headliners. But you make an astute point, Alex. One of the things that really popped out to me is the quality of the depth of this class from like 10 through 20 or even 15 through 20. Those guys are better this year than they have been in past years. Usually those are complete throwaways once you're down to number 15, 20 in the wide receiver rankings. Obviously some of these guys are going to miss that are ranked that far down, but we're going to see a couple players come out of the top 15, top 20, that 10 to 20 range that are going to have an impact more so than in traditional years, Alex. So I guess let me give you a couple guys that landed just outside the top 10 here in my rankings.
Hold on. Before you get into that, let me just add, now that we're talking about that, I'd like to ask you, as I'm looking at my 29 my 2019 wide receiver worksheet, I mean, where would guys like, the guys that were in like around wide receiver 7 to wide receiver 10 last year, like the Miles Boykins or the Kelvin Harmons or the Hakeem Butlers, how far down the list would they be this year? It's crazy to think about, right? I mean, AJ Brown's AJ Brown, N'Keal Harry, DK Metcalf. I don't even know where. AJ Brown would probably have him at wide receiver 3 I'd have a wide receiver 1 in that class. I might have a wide receiver 3 or 4 in this class. But then, N'Keal Harry, DK Metcalf, it's just hard to even picture where I would even have them. Not that I want to go through that whole exercise, but it's just goes to show, man, this year was tough for ranking them. It was fun for us from a content standpoint. We got to put out a lot, but ranking them has been tough. It's been fun, but it's been tough. And anyway, back to your.
All right, so let me give you a couple guys that landed just outside of my top 10, Alex. Why don't we begin with your guy from the Senior Bowl? Actually, our wide receiver 1 on the RosterWatch All Senior Bowl team for 2020 was Ohio State redshirt senior KJ Hill, 6 foot tall, 196 pounds. He had an excellent Senior Bowl.
The wide receiver 1 from the Senior Bowl was Denzel Mims.
Right. Okay. I mean, Mims was the clear one, but when we were getting into all the guys behind that, the ancillary guys, it was like the KJ Hills, the James Proches,
the Michael Pittman.
Yeah. And by the end of the week, it was, Michael Pittman missed some practice during that week. And so by the end of the week, it was KJ Hill, who is Ohio State's all-time leading receiver, who'd really emerged as a reliable option. Some of our fears about his athleticism did come to fruition at the combine, but a savvy enough player. We've seen guys like that at the Senior Bowl that I didn't want to just totally punt on KJ Hill out of Ohio State and dismiss everything we saw at a really quality Senior Bowl performance. And number 12, Alex, from Kentucky, I have Lynn Bowden Jr., a player that's got a whole hive on Twitter, including guys like Gil Brandt, who are extremely high on Lynn Bowden at 5'11", 204. A lot of folks think he can be a bit of a Randall Cobb when he comes into the league. Played a lot of quarterback last year. And then at number 11, just outside my top 10, Alex, I have the redshirt sophomore at 5'9", 178 pounds from Penn State, KJ Hamler.
Okay, cool. I can't believe that about KJ Hill. I looked it up. It's true. All-time receptions leader at Ohio State. I had no idea. You and I both have
an incredible feat, man. That's an incredible feat.
I don't know how I didn't know that after doing all these fucking write-ups. I have Lynn Bowden Jr. at 12 as well, and our top 10s are going to differ from one another already. I can tell. So let's just get started. Let's go to your number 10, brother.
All right, at number 10, prospect that I would call one of the most polarizing wide receiver prospects in this class, and one of the guys that one of the more difficult guys to put a grade on, put an evaluation on. At 6'4", 216 pounds, 9 2/8 hands with the real long 34 1/8 inch arms. He did run about a 4.55 or a 4.6 at Pro Day, but just did pitifully in the vertical and the 20-yard shuttle. Who I'm talking about here is the junior out of Clemson, Tee Higgins, coming in as my wide receiver 10 in this rookie class. I know he's much higher on some other folks' lists, Alex, but that's where he landed for me. I certainly thought he was one of the more difficult evaluations in this class. And I've seen other people that are all over the map on this guy.
He's my wide receiver 11. I wasn't overly impressed with Tee Higgins. I mean, when I look at his pros, he's got the big catch radius. He's got the prototypical size of the outside receiver. He has really good hands, and he tracks the ball well. He's got the great leaping ability, the good body control on the sidelines. But you just feel like he could probably be a little bit more physical for his size. He also doesn't like you mentioned, Byron. He just doesn't have the top end speed or the explosiveness. I see Tee Higgins a little like Colin Johnson. A couple guys with really good body control, very fluid, very big, very tall. They look beastly, but maybe just not as attacking, not as physical as you would like. With that being said, this is a really good class. And I mean, Tee I like Tee Higgins better than I like, last year. Like I liked Hakeem Butler or some of those others that we talked about. I feel like last year he's like a top 6 guy. This year I have him as wide receiver 11, and there are conflicting reports about that pro day 40 time. He has probably agents and minions and friends and whoever else posting videos on Twitter saying it was a 4.43 and things like this. So for my evaluation, I chalked it up as like a 4.52. Just kind of split the difference there. I don't think it was a 4.6. But yeah, we're not far off on.
You don't want to get too underwater on a player like that with that kind of size and range and production coming from a program on Clemson, and you have to remind yourself. I mean, he does flash some big time playmaking ability at times. Oh, generally speaking, without getting too down into the weeds, Alex, I saw a lot of what you kind of outlined there. A guy who you wished was a little bit more physical, maybe even a little bit more explosive. At times, you wish the hands were a little more reliable, and then just the route running coming out of Clemson, it's just not inspiring compared to some of the other players that I've ranked above them. That said, we have plenty of industry counterparts who, have an affinity for Tee Higgins. So not a player you want to get too far underwater in, but in
who's
a class that's this stacked.
Who's your comp? Corey Davis and Mike Williams. Okay, there you go. They're a little bit alike. I think he's kind of a poor man's Mike Williams, and Mike Williams has struggled to really become the player that people were hoping that he would become. So,
but Mike Williams is a good player. That's been he's been injured. We've seen Phillip Rivers on the decline. I still like Mike Williams. I would take Mike Williams over Tee Higgins any day of the week, Alex. Okay, at
even at his
9,
age, even a dynasty.
Oh yeah, I like Mike Williams. Definitely.
We'll see where Tee Higgins lands, man. If he lands with the Packers, you might be taking that back, right?
Don't want to be too bought into Tyrod Taylor, I suppose. But I guess the Chargers might take a quarterback here. So we'll have to see how things shake out. At number 9 in my rookie wide receiver rankings, Alex, another player who has been characterized as one of the more polarizing prospects and difficult evaluations in this class. But I'll say this, it was harder for me to get him any higher than number 9, but a player I have some interest in. I do think there is some upside here with this player. His draft stock has fallen precipitously throughout the process, and I'm talking about the junior at 6'1", 227 pounds, the 9-inch hands out of Colorado, Laviska Shenault, a player that we know pro days obviously got shut down early this year, but a player I actually got to visit with live and in person early in this draft season before things got entirely shut down with COVID-19. I attended the University of Colorado Pro Day. It was one of the early pro days after the combine up there in Boulder to speak with Laviska and also to watch the Steven Montez workout. And my interaction with Laviska seemed like a little bit of an enigmatic dude. But I'll say this, man.
Was he as weird as Malachi Dupree?
Potentially, a little bit of an odd bird. But I will say, he is 21 years old, so he's young. I was surprised, though, after visiting with him in person, he may have been wearing his cleats, to see that he only measured in at 6'1". Now, I would like to know that 6'1" and how many eighths, because my impression meeting Laviska in person is that he is, and I get he's the 227 pounds, that's part of it, but that is a big dude. I mean, I met AJ Brown in person, who's one of the frequently used comps you see for Laviska Shenault. I met AJ Brown in person at Ole Miss Pro Day last year, and another guy that was just thick and big. I mean, he had, quads like Barry Sanders, but I didn't remember feeling like AJ Brown towered over me like Laviska Shenault did. So a big player with a lot of versatility and some playmaking ability, coming in at my number 9 in my rookie wide receiver rankings, Alex.
Yeah, so he's 6 feet 5/8 inches, 227. He gets a lot of comps to Cordero Patterson. I like that because he's just so awesome run after catch, running with the ball in his hands. Right. You worry a little bit about the about the drop off in production from 2018 to 2019, but he's extremely versatile. He played at the X, he played at the flanker, he played in the slot, completely fearless. He can track the ball well. He could take as a sophomore, completely took over football games. I actually have him ranked. I won't say how highly I have him ranked. I have him ranked a good bit higher than you do. I'm a fan of Laviska Shenault. I've been a fan of him ever since I first saw him at a Rivals camp back in like 2017, the spring of 2016, before his senior year in high school, before he even had any offers anywhere. I thought that was the camp where Laviska Shenault and Brennan Eagles, both the Texas wide receiver, both showed this uncanny ability to. It was a real windy day up in Dallas. They showed this uncanny ability to adjust to these footballs coming from these, random quarterbacks that they'd never played with before, showing up for this open camp. And Shenault, just even going back then, I said, that guy's got the body control. He has this. He's got the big soft hands. He was just a player that I've always been very interested in. Looks more like a running back when he has the football in his hands than he does a wide receiver. Trashman thought that for that reason, he comped him a little bit to an AJ Brown. What do you think?
That's the comp I have.
He's not AJ
that's
Brown.
He isn't AJ Brown, but that's body type, the potential role he can play. I think it's a reasonable comp, just at least stylistically and in terms of build. I don't think he's the player that AJ Brown is. But to your point, Alex, I mean, look, the short arms, the smaller hands at 9 inches. To your point, I really do think
or his arms short, because 31
a little bit shorter arm, smaller handed than you would prefer. Especially, I was surprised to see those numbers considering
he doesn't track the ball like a guy that has the arms that short.
Yeah, exactly. He plays bigger than that, right? And so I think you make a good point that very easily Laviska Shenault could be one of the players that everybody looks back in a couple of years and realizes that they had ranked too low, that the industry had gotten too low on Laviska Shenault, albeit not a perfect prospect and definitely not a can't-miss guy, but certainly plenty of traits there to desire. And we're talking about wide receiver 9, higher for you, but this is a guy that teams can get late. A lot of appeal there, Alex. Okay.
Still young, and also, I mean, productive. I think Laviska Shenault, I have him ranked a little bit higher than you have him ranked. Who do you have at number 8?
And number 8 is yes, it is. At number 8 in my 2020 rookie wide receiver rankings at 6'4", 223 pounds, 9 2/8 hands, 32.5-inch arms, burned off the 4.52 at the NFL Combine. Alex, this was one of my favorite players early in the week of the Senior Bowl until he elected to quit participating in practice. And I'm talking about the senior from USC, Michael Pittman, who I thought looked like Kenny Golladay or even a little bit like Mike Williams or Keenan Allen, the way that the Chargers wide receivers play, that style they kind of play with. I saw a little bit of that in Michael Pittman early in the week. I thought from the outset he was kind of giving Denzel Mims a run for his money. But, as the week went on, Pittman started to kind of pull up and pull out of participation a little bit of that week. And it really gave Mims the opportunity to just finish really, really strong. But Michael Pittman out of USC, my wide receiver 8, a guy that, he's got a lot of really good qualities, Alex. So a player that I know the industry has also kind of seen a rise in their rankings across the board and over the course of maybe the last month or so.
An 86th percentile spark athlete. I mean, he's 6'4", 223 pounds. He is – my comp was Kenny Golladay as well. I think that you and I both talked about that before. He's but he's not just this kind of jump ball proficient, good body control guy. Like we saw at the Senior Bowl, he's a good route runner. He's a good route runner. He comes with NFL pedigree. His dad's just a rocked up running back and Michael Pittman that played. Did he play for the Bucs? I think the Bucs and the Cardinals. The only issues I saw with Pittman is, for one, he the speed at 4.52. It's good. It's not elite, elite. It's not an elite kind of size speed combo, but it's good. And then the other thing, just a little bit just on tape, not so much during Senior Bowl practices on tape, just stays up a little. He doesn't really dig into his routes at his routes transition point. He stays a little bit high, and sometimes he can have trouble separating. For those reasons, he sometimes separates, with that physicality, with that big size, the big catch radius, and he really does have just such elite sticky hands. I'm a huge fan of Michael Pittman. I actually have him ranked a little bit lower than you do, but he is in my top 10. Of course, if you want our top 10 cumulative staff rankings for all these positions, you can find them at rosterwatch.com with a pro membership, along with all of our tools. The Bell cheat sheets, the Dynasty rookie cheat sheets, which will be out next week after the NFL draft. I'm sure we're all looking forward to that after this stuff. And anyway, just a ton of content.
I like what you pointed out. I mean, with Pittman at his size, he was just at the Senior Bowl and on film a polished route runner, and even a player that, even though he didn't have the big time speed, you see him get deep on occasion for some bigger plays. I thought he just absolutely destroyed the zone coverage on film, Alex. I came away thinking he could struggle a little more against, elite cornerback ones who are going to press him up a little bit. So my opinion is Michael Pittman, as a prospect, I look at him as like an NFL wide receiver 2, potentially with more upside than that. Like you said, he could separate with physicality, but I do think at a player his size, he could be more physical than he is. So I kind of thought Michael Pittman, given a guy of his stature, was a little bit more.
He's a small bit of a pretty boy. He's a small bit of a pretty boy, just a little bit. But I mean, these guys all have a little diva in them. But I know what you.
I thought he was a little bit more slick than physical for a guy his size, right?
It's kind of a theme with a few of these guys in this class, right?
Sure is. Okay, coming in at number 7 in my wide receiver rankings at 5'11", it was 206 pounds at the combine, but a reported 198 pounds at his self-manufactured pro day. 9 4/8 inch hands, 31 3/8 inch arms, 4.47 at the combine. He was reporting sub 4.3 at his pro day, so I gave him a 4.35 to 4.4 at his pro day here. 42-inch vertical, though, and 138 inches on the broad jump. The 3-cone and the 20-yard shuttle certainly left a lot to be desired at the NFL Combine, Alex, but I'm talking about the junior out of TCU at number 7, Jalen Reagor. In terms of my comps for him, I have Will Fuller, Marquise Goodwin, Ted Ginn, John Brown, Mecole Hardman, and Philip Dorsett. So obviously an explosive player that can, with strong hands, that can show some big time, explosive catch radius, but also some inconsistent hands at times. And, when you see that Gil Brandt has talked to his father, I believe it's Monte Reagor, apparently on multiple occasions, about seeing if he can get Jalen to switch to cornerback in the NFL. That concerns me a little bit there. But Jalen Reagor has kind of been up and down boards throughout the process, Alex, but in the end, he ends up at wide receiver 7 in my rankings.
Little higher for me, not much though. I have him at 6. He's got the NFL pedigree. My comp is funny. His comp at the combine, he said that he's a mix of Deebo Samuel and Tyreek Hill, which would be the best receiver in the NFL if that was the case. I'm not sure that Jalen Reagor's there, but he had bad quarterback play at TCU last year. Everybody who watched saw it. I mean, you've seen a guy just during his career though who's another guy going back to the time that he was being recruited. He's just a very, very explosive kid. When you see him out there, he's got great long speed. I think he's faster than that, whatever he tested, 4.47 that he tested at. Great open field vision. He's a great returner. He's a 94th percentile spark athlete. I mean, he's a 98th percentile broad jump, 97th percentile vertical jump. That's the other thing too. He's kind of big. He's a 72nd percentile in the bench press as well. So he's one of these big, strong guys. The thing is, though, he even admits he only ran a post and a go in college. He does not have a diverse route tree, does not have a diverse skill set. And also, the drops. I don't know the number of drops, but watch any game. He doesn't have very dependable hands, but he is a stick of dynamite as an athlete. 20% of his team's receptions, 25% of his team's receiving yards, 33% of his team's receiving touchdowns at TCU, and just all the different honors from the Big 12 conference and everything like that here from the 2019 season. I think that he is. I think he's a really good prospect. But if he falls outside my top 5, but I think he's a really good prospect. It's a really good class.
Well, especially as the way teams. I mean, Al Davis would be proud in the NFL coming full circle back to just coveting pure speed from a schematic perspective. I mean, some of these coaches just really, really value it. And, I would point out to you, Alex, I thought his route tree was somewhat limited at TCU, but I thought Reagor was a pretty good route runner considering, and also for his size, like you mentioned, a pretty physical player. So the hands are concerned there, and that's obviously a red flag for any premier wide receiver prospect. But Jalen Reagor's got enough good traits going for him that I think he's a player we'll see go pretty early on. Hopefully, I would imagine probably on Friday is what I would expect, Alex.
Yep.
Okay, so coming in at number 6 in my rookie wide receiver rankings, at 6 foot tall, 205 pounds, 9 6/8 hands, the very long 33.5-inch arms, an unofficial 4.5 at the combine, and an eye-popping 40-inch vertical as well. I can see why a lot of the scouts have him graded higher than his predecessor in last year's class. There's a lot of Sammy Watkins here, Alex, and the senior out of Arizona State, Brandon Aiyuk. I also see a little bit of Christian Kirk and a dash of Odell Beckham when I'm grading this player. A versatile player who can really line up in the slot. I think he can play some outside. You can put him at flanker. A good route runner that's reliably handed and certainly has some playmaking ability. I left my evaluations understanding exactly why NFL circles are so high on Brandon Aiyuk.
81-inch wingspan. Can you believe it when you look at his? I mean, that's a pterodactyl. I mean, that is a pterodactyl for a guy that's 5'11" and 3/4 inches. For him to have 10-inch hands and an 81-inch wingspan is just gnarly, dude. It really is. So he's got the elite yards after catch, the elite open field vision, the way that we like out of these guys that are really good kick returners. I have him ranked right around where you have him ranked. How much does it worry you that he basically was a 2-star recruit coming out, he's kind of a 1-year wonder, late breakout age. Also, I mean, a few more body catches than you would like for a guy with 10-inch hands. And the 4.5 wasn't quite as fast as I was. He plays a little bit faster than 4.5. But even with that being said, I believe he was, as far as the rest of his tests, let's see, Brandon Aiyuk, a 90th percentile spark athlete overall based on the combine. Do you worry at all about 1-year wonder stuff or JUCO turned kind of late breakout issue?
I mean, I think those items combined with the quality at the top of the class are what keep him out of the top 5. But when you look at the guys in his rearview mirror ranked below him, I mean, nobody has a clean slate. All of these guys have some issues. And the fact is, on tape,
there's going to be one guy.
Brandon Aiyuk is a more natural receiver than guys like Jalen Reagor and, even Michael Pittman and Laviska Shenault and Tee Higgins and the rest of that group. And from my perspective,
I don't think he's more natural. I don't think he's more natural than Pittman. Not from a hands perspective. Really, he's as far as ball skills.
Okay, well, I mean, Michael Pittman is a 6'4", 223-pound guy. I mean, I expect maybe he has a little bit
softer hands though, and smaller. His hands are smaller. Like,
I mean, Brandon Aiyuk looks like a guy who's going to make a lot more big plays than Michael Pittman, and he's a versatile player. I think he looks pretty natural.
That could be true.
Pretty natural. Obviously, these are guys that I have ranked within a couple of spots, and you can make an argument either way. I just think that the NFL is going to want the more versatile player with the big hands and the long arms that has a little bit more big play ability. And also, we do our own evaluations and we stand steadfast by them. I don't have any fear of going out on a limb annually with my evaluations. And I often am, but there's some industry intelligence that's always built in. And I think it's fair to say that the industry, the NFL circles, everything we've heard coming out is that folks in the know are very high on Brandon
We're
Aiyuk.
too low on Aiyuk. Yeah. No, I get it. There's one player who I know is not going to be in your top 5 that I can't believe isn't even in your top 15. Like we haven't talked about yet. And you didn't even mention him as being just outside. That I have up kind of high here, but we'll see. Maybe you do. I don't know. I can't see it happening though. I can't see it happening.
Well, we'll just have to see.
Should I just tell you who it is? Should I tell you who it is? What about Bryan Edwards? Where do you have Bryan Edwards?
I like Bryan Edwards a whole lot. I had him right. Actually, I had a really tough decision between Hamler, Bowden, KJ Hill, and Bryan Edwards. I thought those 4 could have gone in any order for me. I mean, you could make an argument you like Bryan Edwards more than Tee Higgins as a natural receiver. So he has about upward mobility to 11 for me. I don't think Edwards could anyway really crack my top 10. I mean, I wouldn't hate somebody who argued for him over Shenault, but I'd say Edwards has a little bit of upward mobility in my opinion. I worry he's a little bit of a lumbering player, a little bit lumbering out there. It concerns me. We've seen the Dorial Green Beckhams and the guys like that in years past. But there's certainly a lot of appeal to Bryan Edwards' profile. And this is what we're saying when we say the class goes 15, 20 deep. Like you've got to bury a guy or two that you like just by default, really. So
I get it. Yeah, I get it. It's just the only one. I was starting to think like, well, where's Bryan Edwards going to fit in? Because my biggest decision this draft season with these wide receivers, or not my biggest, but one of my biggest is continued to be Brandon Aiyuk or Bryan Edwards. So I kind of those are two guys. I ended up going with Aiyuk over Edwards, but I have both. I have Aiyuk a little lower than you, and Edwards a little higher.
Yeah, I mean it was a difficult group for me to sort through, like number 11 through 15. So Edwards is right in the pocket there with guys like Higgins and Hamler and Bowden, KJ Hill for me. And certainly I can understand people who have him ranked higher. And another player I wouldn't be surprised if we find out like maybe some of us had him ranked too low. I was just a little bit, we didn't get the athletic testing on Bryan Edwards, unfortunately, and he shows a lot of good traits on film. I worry a little bit about him being a little bit of a lumbering player at the NFL level.
I don't think he's lumbering, but I think that it's fine to be worried if he's got a mysterious foot that nobody can get good medical on right now. Let's get to your top 5.
I also didn't think I always saw Bryan Edwards use as much of his range as maybe I would have liked to. I mean, he makes obviously plenty of big plays. Okay, let's get into the top 5 in my 2020 rookie wide receiver rankings. Obviously, this is pre-draft, Alex. We're so excited to find out in just a few days where all of these guys land. At number 5, coming in at 6'1", 202 pounds with 9 1/8" hands, 33-inch arms, burned the 4.43 at the NFL Combine, and put up the respectable 37.5-inch vert and a reasonable 126-inch broad. This is the wide receiver that I have dubbed as the most in vogue player in the class, and that's the junior out of LSU, Justin Jefferson. Why do I say he's the most in vogue player in this class? It's because he's a big slot, and big slots that's all the rave in the NFL. That's such an in vogue archetype. It's an in vogue profile right now in the NFL, and Justin Jefferson is a great example of a big slot. I know I saw a little Juju Smith-Schuster to him. I've seen comps of Greg Jennings and Stevie Johnson. I think he's a much more natural player than a guy like Nelson Aguilar, but I see some of that there in terms of how he could potentially be used. So Justin Jefferson 14.6 yards per catch, a 51% college dominator, the explosive athletic profile with long arms. I saw a few drops on tape. I'd like to see him clean up, Alex.
They weren't.
But
he didn't. I mean, he caught 83% of his catchable targets in 2019. Like, I don't think that the drops were in it. I know the drop. I can think about a couple drops too, but I don't think that they were as frequent. I don't worry about his hands. What I do worry about is, do you think he can play outside? And it seems like we got our boy. Is Michael Yeager?
Do I think he can play outside?
Is this Eagles fan? Michael Yeager, Eagles fan 35 on Twitter. I think it is.
I believe so.
Because Eagles fans always talk about Clemson. So is Michael Yeager. Michael Yeager, Eagles fan. He is. I just wonder what Eagles fans are going to think if they get Justin Jefferson, a guy that seems like he's going to play. I mean, can he play outside? I'm putting together my mock, and I'm like,
the problem is we don't know.
He can play outside.
I mean, I think maybe he can because he's a good receiver. He's got sufficient height, but you just don't know. You really just don't know. So, I mean, you don't want to.
He certainly wasn't the alpha on his own team. Jamar Chase is younger than him and was the alpha.
To me, that's why Jefferson and Aiyuk actually graded pretty closely for me. I saw Aiyuk as a guy who's just flat out got more experience across the formation than Jefferson is, and I see it on tape that he can be moved around. But like I said, I'm not sure that matters so much because that's such an in vogue role in the NFL, that big slot, that being a specialist like that, I think actually plays to Justin Jefferson's advantage, at least here in terms of where he's going to be drafted and as it translates early in the NFL. Because look, you're not going to cover Justin Jefferson with a safety or a linebacker. It's going to take a good nickel corner to do that. He's going to be a tough matchup in the slot out of the gate. Now, does he have are there some limitations because he may not ever move outside? Maybe, but this day and age, especially in terms of fantasy, there's plenty of room for production and big time volume out of the slot, Alex. So Justin Jefferson, my number 5 wide receiver, the junior out of LSU in this year's rookie class.
Almost 800 of his receiving yards last year. Justin Jefferson last year had 1,540 receiving yards. 800 of them came on crossing routes and in routes. He's a volume player. He's what our boy Matt Kelly would call a bit of a compiler. The fact that he ran the 4.43 or whatever to me was what really opened my eyes and said, well, wait, this was a 2-star athlete that seemed like a compiler. But now it's looking like he's an 82nd percentile spark athlete that runs a 4.43. Can he play outside? It's why he's not ranked higher, I guess. But just what he was able to do in that offense, and even within the context of basically the best offense we've seen ever in my life at the college football level, he was a key cog in it, even if he wasn't the alpha the way that Jamar Chase was.
I mean, it sounds like he's almost certainly a lock to be a first-round pick. So Justin Jefferson going to get plenty of.
I just don't know if he's a fit for the Eagles. I don't know if he's a fit for the Eagles. And even Eagles fan in the Periscope comments, he said they need a field stretcher with Djax being hurt often. I think a field stretcher opens up. I'm not sure that that's Justin Jefferson's MO here.
I like Aiyuk in Philadelphia because they need to replenish their entire receiving corps. I think Aiyuk gives them some versatility. They may feel a little bit burned going in on Arcega-Whiteside last year. It's like, I could see them maybe looking to a more versatile player that's got a little bit more juice this year, Alex. Certainly Carson Wentz needs a couple more weapons there to go with those tight ends. As it looks like Alshon Jeffrey and Deshaun Jackson those guys are getting close to going the way of the dodo bird. All right, here's the big one right here.
4. Coming
in at number 4 in my rookie wide receiver rankings at 6'3", 207 pounds, 9 3/8 inch hands, 33 7/8 inch arms, an absolute blazing 4.38 at the NFL Combine. Alex, you referenced him earlier in the show. Our number 1 wide receiver from the Senior Bowl this year, Denzel Mims, the senior out of Baylor, who absolutely dominated the entire week of the Senior Bowl. By the time we left, we were thinking, man, he looks a little like Chris Godwin or Allen Robinson, or maybe he's got a little Devontae Parker or even Kenny Golladay to him as well. I mean,
Cortland Sutton.
Mims just checked, to sound cliche, at the risk of sounding cliche, he's checked every single box throughout the draft process. And then you meet the kid, and he's just, an extraordinarily good kid. And what did I tell you guys from the stands at the Senior Bowl, Alex? I looked at you guys. I said, if Denzel Mims runs sub 4.55 at the NFL Combine, like, this is a guy that's going to be squarely on everybody's radar. Yeah, wheels up. Then he comes out and blazes just an eye-popping 4.38 and has just been a meteoric riser across the industry on everyone's boards. And you just, you see a guy that can play the outside. He can run the intermediate, the shorter routes. He's just a heck of a player, man. And look, we always say it. The best way to evaluate NFL prospects as they project to the NFL is to evaluate them against other NFL prospects, to scout them against other NFL players. And that's absolutely exactly what we get to do every year at the Senior Bowl. Those are all NFL players out there. Now, they might be cornerback 3s and cornerback 4s. Some of them might be cornerback 2s. So, I wouldn't blame you if you had concern about Denzel Mims in terms of, is he going to be able to come to the league, be a bona fide wide receiver 1 and be able to take down, some of the league's best cornerbacks. I'm not sure I'm there yet on Denzel Mims, but I know he comes into the league being able to dominate lesser defensive backs. And with that kind of speed and that kind of production coming out of Baylor and everything we've seen along with that size and range profile, Alex, it was just Denzel Mims just with a big grade in my model, and very, very excited to see where he lands.
Just a huge catch radius, just the body control, the aggression at the catch point. We're talking about a former track, basketball, baseball athlete, high school quarterback. I mean, it's everything that you want. And one of these players, coming into the Senior Bowl, I wasn't expecting it. But every year there's somebody that's just like, holy shit. You're like, wow, that guy's dominating everybody. He looks better than everybody else. And that was Denzel Mims this year. And he's actually, I haven't ranked exactly as highly as you do, and it's one of the evaluations I'm most comfortable with. I know people were worried about him being a boom bust prospect. I guess I can understand it. The production did kind of creep up there in 1 year, and he's had a massive, like you said, like a meteoric rise through draft season. It's kind of weird for that to happen to a guy that's not coming out as a junior that's been in college for all 4 years. But I got to see it all week at the Senior Bowl, right? And then I even said, we set our mark. We said 4.55. If he can, if that's what he is, if he's faster than that, we got to start really taking this guy seriously. This isn't just a trash man favorite anymore. The guy goes and runs a 4.38. I mean, whoa, what am I supposed to do? I have everything I need there for my evaluation, and he's a 95th percentile spark athlete.
And that's just a fast enough time where you just have to take everybody's takes who say he doesn't play fast on film, and you got to throw it. You have to throw it in the trash. If he was a 4.5,
you got to say, what the fuck are you watching?
4.5 flat, maybe, but at 4.38, you can't. There's a point where it's just so far beyond the threshold that you can't overlook it, Alex. And the other threshold that he went far beyond, very impressive, was the 6.66 second 3-cone for Denzel Mims. That's outstanding. That's an outstanding time in the 3-cone, especially for
he can corner, man. Like he can run these routes. He gets in and out of his breaks. Like we saw it over and over again. Like he has the change of direction, the requisite change of direction ability that you would look to in a true number 1 in the National Football League.
I had Denzel Mims.
The size.
Quick-footed and agile for his size, solid run after catch, good out of his breaks. And the thing that really stuck out to me versus somebody say like a Michael Pittman, Alex, is Denzel Mims won a lot more on film versus press than somebody like Michael Pittman. That's not to say that Pittman can't do it, But Mims got lined up a lot against press and did very, very well in those scenarios. So I'm very confident that Mims is going to be effective versus all types of coverage at the next level.
Whenever we talk about guys that got dog in them, like the all-dog team, I think that Denzel Mims is on that team. I know your guy Lynn Bowden Jr. is on that team. There are a couple of these guys in this class, man, that got that dog, and Denzel Mims tops the list for me. Who do you got at number 3?
All right, time to crack the top 3 here, Alex. Coming in at number 3 at 5'11", 188 pounds, monster, 10 1/8 inch hands, peeled off the 4.27 at the combine, the eye-popping 42-inch vertical, and of course, I'm talking about the junior out of Alabama, Henry Ruggs, who came in with a big score, and my model was the definitive number 3 in a tier of his own at only 21 years old. I know a lot of people are talking about Tyreek Hill. I've seen some Brandon Cooks comps. I think a Mecole Hardman comp is fair for Henry Ruggs. And then, some people are going to point to John Ross, obviously. And he could be one of these players that is drafted very high just from a schematic perspective. These coaches want a field stretcher like him. And I think we've been hearing that for weeks now, that Ruggs is going to go very, very early in the draft for that exact reason. I mean, I was just a 17th percentile college dominator, 40 games played, 3 years, freshman through junior, 17.5 yards per catch. This was the eye-popping number to me. 25 total touchdowns for Henry Ruggs on only 100 touches. So 1 out of every 4 touches, Henry Ruggs scored a touchdown in that.
I didn't know that.
Alabama offense. And he never eclipsed the 46 receptions in a season. That's just not what the role was there in those blowouts with Alabama. He's very much a schematic player. And, not unexpectedly, I thought he struggled a little bit versus a physical press with bigger corners at times. I saw that on the tape versus LSU, who annually LSU is one of the best defenses to grade your wide receivers against, because you get kind of a feel for more of NFL style players and scheme that they run there. But with those big old 10-inch mitts, I don't think he's always the most natural catcher of the football, but certainly has good hands. And I see where the Tyreek Hill comps come from, Alex, because I think Ruggs is, he's physical for his size. He's not as violent as somebody like Tyreek, but he's physical. And I mean, with the 25 touchdowns, you see even at that size that Henry Ruggs shows up and he
sacrifices his body for these plays, man. Dude.
Yeah,
he's got some dog in him. Like, yeah, you've seen the videos of him palming the basketball and doing all the 360 dunks. It's like he's a baller. I mean, they have Jalen Waddle in that thing. They got Devontae in that thing. They got Jerry Jeudy in that thing. Those are 4 wide receivers that are probably all going to be first-round wide receivers in the National Football League. And everybody talks about how Henry Ruggs is the alpha in that room. They all look to him like he's the leader and the alpha in that room. You mentioned already about the giant hands, the fact that, the multi-sport star, he's a 99th percentile spark athlete. The only issue you can find with him, he's not really he doesn't statistically go that big in the offense, but that touchdown efficiency stat that you had earlier, that's really, really eye-popping. And also, man, like Jim Nagy at the Senior Bowl, very, very plugged in, talks to all the scouts. I mean, his job is talking to the scouts and finding out who they like, who they want to see, who they want to see more of, what the lay of the land. If that guy would have put together a mock draft, he would win the mock draft competition at Huddle Report every year, right? Nobody, it's like a Gil Brandt or something, except literally it's Nagy's job to go and mine this intel, find out who's who. He's down there in Alabama. He said, he tweeted this right after the Senior Bowl, right after the combine. He tweeted out the video of Henry Ruggs running his 4.27 and said, "There's your clear wide receiver 1. He's the clear wide receiver 1 in the entire class." And at that point in time, it was a really hot. People were like, "What? Ruggs? What about Jerry Jeudy? He wasn't even the best wide receiver on his own team," is what some people had said. But Nagy stuck by it. We've heard it more and more from NFL types. These guys value speed. You talked about it earlier, man. That goes to Al Davis. He'll roll over in his grave if he's available at 12 or wherever the Raiders pick, and Mayock doesn't pull the trigger there.
All right, we're down to the top 2 wide receivers in this class, both truly elite prospects. Alex, the top 2 wide receivers in this class are the both are the two best wide receiver prospects to enter the league since Amari Cooper in 2015. So let's just get right into my number 2 guy. This is the player that I think would be fair to say is the safest wide receiver prospect in this class at 6'1", 193 pounds, 9 4/8 inch hands, the 32 1/8 inch arms, ran the 4.45 at the NFL Combine. I'm talking about the junior from Alabama, Jerry Jeudy, and my comps for him, I had Odell Beckham, Santonio Holmes, Jeremy Maclin, and obviously just an exceptional route runner who looks like he can get.
What about
open.
Calvin Ridley? What about Ridley? You don't remind you of Ridley at all?
I put Ridley. He does remind me of Ridley. It's just when it's all said and done, you realize that he's an elite prospect on another level. But he does have Calvin Ridley to his profile. I actually do.
He's got the great spade line speed, but you just when you look at Jerry Jeudy, and I'll let you get back, but 22nd percentile athlete because of those horrible agility testing scores that just didn't seem to make sense because he's the best route runner in the class. How can he not? How can he not do well in these change of direction drills?
It was a mistake if you got too low on Calvin Ridley because of those numbers, and I'm not going to do it with Jerry Jeudy. A sensational route runner. Looks like he can get open against just about anybody. Obviously has big play capability, and I see a few drops here and there, but overall strong, reliable hands. And a player that is as polished as he is as a slippery route runner, I actually think Jeudy is pretty darn physical, given his stature. So Jerry Jeudy is just, an absolutely sensational prospect. I think is going to have an impact as a rookie immediately for wherever he's selected. And I expect that to be very, very early on Thursday night, Alex.
If you just want the guy that separates with ease and just looks like, just polish well beyond his years, it's Jerry Jeudy. I worry. I just worry a little bit, about him being a number 1 wide receiver in the league at 6'1", 100. He's just a little 193 is a little bit smaller, right? Isn't a little bit smaller than you would generally like. Where do you see him playing?
Some people think he looks like Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown's a 190 pounder. I think it's fine, Alex. You look at the Marvin Harrisons, the Antonio Browns of the world. Odell Beckham doesn't weigh a whole lot more than that. I think it's fine. Is he going to be Julio Jones? Probably not. But is he one of the most complete and highest ceiling and highest floor prospects we've seen come out in the last 5 years since Amari Cooper? The answer is definitively yes. He went against the stiffest competition in the country. He's played against cornerbacks who are going to the NFL. And he had teammates.
He had teammates who were awesome. Vying for the
and playing on a front runner team, of course. But the big production profile coming out of one of the absolute best programs in the country and one of the best conferences in the country as well. I think you are nitpicking Jerry Jeudy if you're trying to manufacture a way to get him any lower in your rankings. And of course, Alex, that leaves us with my number 1 wide receiver in this year's class. Just came in with an eye-popping grade for me. It was, marginally higher than Jerry Jeudy, but my clear number 1 in this class. And that's the junior out of OU, CeeDee Lamb, coming in at 6 foot, 2 inches tall, 198 pounds, 9 2/8 inch hands, also with the longer 32 and 1/4 inch arms. From a physical profile, actually not all that different from Jerry Jeudy. A little bit taller, a little bit bigger, and also an excellent route runner, Alex. So I have a lot of folks, they ask you, they say, well, why do you have CeeDee Lamb ranked above Jerry Jeudy? And the first thing I tell them is it's probably not discussed enough, but those guys actually aren't all that different. They probably have more similarities than not, more similarities than anybody's given them credit for. But when it comes to CeeDee Lamb versus Jerry Jeudy, Alex, I see Lamb as a guy who just plays a little bit bigger and has a touch more physicality.
All right. Well, that can probably be the pod, man. I think. We've gone like 55 minutes, so I think it's good. So we'll end it there. That'll be episode number 239 of the podcast. We'll have here on YouTube some rapid reactions to the NFL draft and some some other stuff here over the course of the next couple of days. Our boy Alan says Laviska will be getting up some content, as well as Trashman after the draft. And we're done writing our rookie profiles. You can find it at rosterwatch.com, and we'll get Trashman over here doing some trashy news updates or whatever from his urine-soaked cardboard box of a news desk. So with that being said, thanks to everybody for watching here on YouTube. If you are watching and you've made it this far, please click the button to like and subscribe here to the Roster Watch YouTube feed. And also, if you can leave a comment down below, that would be greatly helpful to us. We'll make sure and respond to your comments, like we said, not because we like to respond, but because it helps with the YouTube algorithm, or so we're told. Love you guys. Talk to you soon. Draft's coming right up, man. We're pumped. Peace.